Denis Villeneuve's hit drama Sicario kinda came out of nowhere and unexpectedly sparked a franchise. The 2015 film follows an idealistic FBI agent who gets recruited by a government task force to help with the growing drug war at the U.S. Mexico border. The movie got great reviews, did well at the box office, and even landed 3 Oscar nominations for Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, and Best Sound Editing. Its intense 2018 sequel, Sicario Day of the Soldado, picks up with the escalating border conflict as cartels start smuggling terrorists across the U.S. border. To tackle this, federal agent Matt Gravers teams up again with the mysterious Alejandro. But will they join forces once more for a third film? The third movie, which is planned as the final part of what producers are calling an anthology trilogy, is still happening. There's been a lot of talk about who will return for Sicario 3, or Sicario Capos as it's been called, both in front of and behind the camera. They already had this planned out from what I can tell by dissecting the last part. Like the first movie, Sicario 2 dives deep into the complexities of the drug war, exposing its failures and the blurred lines between good and evil. While it delivers plenty of tense and brutal moments, the ending throws in some unexpected twists and leaves us with questions that are both thought-provoking and chilling. It's the kind of finale that sticks with you and begs for a closer look. Taking a step back to unpack the ending as a whole can reveal a lot about what it all means and what it might hint at for the future. Starting with, why does Matt spare Isabela? I mean, Matt is not exactly known for showing mercy. In Sicario 2, though, he does something unexpected. He spares Isabela, a move that catches audiences off guard. Throughout the movie, Matt is the morally gray CIA operative we know, still working alongside Alejandro. Things take a turn when Alejandro activates his tracking beacon, hoping for rescue, but instead, it puts both him and Isabela in danger, forcing Matt to clean up the mess by eliminating them both. As the head of the task force, Matt is ordered to take them out. Originally, Emily Blunt's Kate Mercer was supposed to return, but screenwriter Taylor Sheridan and director Stefano Sollima couldn't find a place for her in the story. Meanwhile, Alejandro's situation is dire. While trying to cross the border disguised as a migrant, he's recognized by a smuggler and is dragged into the desert where he's shot in the head. This moment is bittersweet for Matt. On one hand, he's relieved not to be the one to kill Alejandro, especially given their past partnership and Matt's role in bringing him into the operation. On the other hand, Alejandro's death weighs heavily on him, adding more complexity to his character. The final shot of Matt shows his internal struggle. He's torn between following orders and letting Isabela live. The loss of Alejandro clearly affects him, and that guilt influences his decision to spare Isabela, even though he was supposed to eliminate her. This rare act of mercy is a stark contrast to the cold, calculated Matt we've seen before. Throughout Sicario and its sequel, Matt is portrayed as someone who does whatever it takes, regardless of the brutality involved. He operates outside the rules, believing they're just a facade for security. In fact, he even mentions early on that he could wipe out a suspect's family without hesitation. But when he sees that same ruthlessness used by others, it hits too close to home. This forces him to pause and reconsider his actions, leading to that powerful moment where he questions whether sparing Isabela is mercy or a mistake that will haunt him. Isabela's story in Sicario 2 shows the collateral damage in the war on drugs. Her journey is one of the most intriguing arcs in the movie. She starts off as a tough, rebellious teen, taking on classmates and even intimidating her teachers. But when her kingpin father's protection vanishes, she's left vulnerable and has to navigate a dangerous world on her own. As she spends time with Alejandro, she begins to understand the real cost of her privileged life. The world she thought was secure turns out to be fragile, especially with the involvement of the U.S. government, leaving her scrambling for safety. At the end of Sicario 2, Matt decides to save Isabela and promises to put her in witness protection. While this decision reflects Matt's shift toward compassion, it also emphasizes Isabela's lack of control over her fate. She's essentially treated as a pawn, traded and moved around much like the immigrants caught up in cartel operations. Her role as someone stuck in the middle of this brutal conflict could open up some interesting possibilities for Sicario 3. Beside this, in Sicario 2 Day of the Soldado, the brutal and secretive approach to fighting the war on drugs begins to unravel. The first Sicario focused on the murky legality of a covert, Washington-backed operation, where Emily Blunt's Kate Mercer was only involved because the CIA needed an FBI agent to cover its tracks. But with Kate out of the picture and Matt leading the sequel, the focus shifts to what happens when these shadowy methods get exposed. The movie drives home Kate's warning from the end of the first Sicario, showing just how unstable this forceful approach to international relations becomes when it's dragged out of the shadows. In Day of the Soldado, the U.S. government's secret attempt to manipulate cartel power dynamics goes horribly wrong, ending in public exposure. The president loses faith in the mission, and the whole operation collapses, revealing just how fragile this strategy is when accountability enters the picture. While the first movie explored the moral ambiguity of these tactics, the sequel highlights what happens when they fail and the messy political fallout that follows. If Denis Villeneuve returns for Sicario 3, it would be fascinating to see how he tackles the question of what comes next in this escalating conflict. Also, there's something we need to talk about. How did Alejandro survive, and is he a changed man by the end of Sicario 2? Alejandro, played by Benicio del Toro, has a jaw-dropping moment in the film's ending. Miguel Hernandez, the young smuggler we've been following, shoots Alejandro in the head, or so it seems. Turns out, Miguel spares him, hitting his jaw instead. Alejandro loses a lot of blood but lives to tell the tale. While it's never outright said, Miguel's choice to aim lower suggests some level of mercy. Throughout Day of the Soldado, we see Alejandro starting to wrestle with his actions. In the first Sicario, his mission with the CIA was all about avenging his family's death at the hands of Fausto Alarcón. While getting his revenge felt justified, his choice to kill Alarcón's family was chilling. In the sequel, Alejandro seems to be questioning if he's turning into the very kind of person he hunts. By the movie's end, he's free. The CIA thinks he's dead, so he's off their radar and can operate without limits. Now, about that final scene. A year later, Miguel is deep into the gang life, rocking tattoos, a crew cut, and a tough new look. Alejandro confronts him at a mall, but it's not about revenge. Instead, he asks, "You want to be a Sicario?" before shutting the door. It's a cryptic ending, leaving us to wonder if Alejandro sees Miguel as a future protege. Maybe he sees a bit of himself in the kid, someone who can push back against authority while still navigating its shadowy world. Whether it's revenge, redemption, or a new chapter, it's definitely a scene that keeps you thinking. With all this, the ending of Sicario 2 lays the groundwork for a compelling third installment, hinting at major character intersections and ideological conflicts. Alejandro seems poised to take Miguel under his wing as an apprentice, using him as an inside connection to Reyes's operations. With Alejandro now completely off the leash, his rogue mission is likely to collide with the authorities, setting up inevitable tension. What makes Sicario 3 even more intriguing is the potential return of Kate Mercer. Producers are keen to bring Emily Blunt back, and the narrative seems to call for it. In Sicario 2, Matt mirrored Kate's earlier journey, questioning his role in the fight against crime. This parallel has brought their ideologies closer, even if their methods differ. A reunion between Kate and Matt could lead to fascinating clashes or partnerships, especially against the backdrop of Alejandro's no-holds-barred approach. The third film could explore three contrasting philosophies: Kate's idealistic view, Matt's morally gray but government-backed strategies, and Alejandro's unregulated and brutal tactics. This dynamic promises a rich and layered narrative. Well, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other exciting upcoming movies. See you next time.